Yes, sir. Gibson? Yielding? Robinson? Thomas? Barry?
Present.
Vestal?
Present.
Height?
Here.
And Witcher?
Present.
The quorum is present, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Whitby. Can I ask that we stand for the prayer and pledge to be led by our Second Ward Alderwoman, Linda Robinson. Ms. Robinson.
Father God, we thank you for another day and another opportunity to take care of the business of the city. I ask that you be with us in the midst tonight and in our decision-making. Not only that, God, we also ask that you remember those that are fighting overseas on our behalf and fighting for freedom. These and other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved.
Second.
And special call.
Minutes of the meeting of October the 11th be approved as submitted in addition to the special call. Motion made and seconded on the motion. Ms. Whitby.
Gibson? Yielding? Robinson? Thomas? Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Let the record reflect Alderman Thomas is present.
Yes, sir.
And the communications, do I have a blanket motion? Second.
4.
Anyone want anyone pulled?
4.
Will number 4 be pulled? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 5 on the motion.
Gibson? Yielding? Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas? Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Would you read number 4 by title?
Yes, sir. This is a memorandum to Mayor Hayes, the City Council, Diane Whitby regarding recycling, and it has to do with the contract being adjusted on each year based on the CPI index.
Move for accept this file.
Motion
Second.
made. Is there a second? Now, let me just
Second.
point it out. Motion made and seconded that this is an automatic increase that will occur on service after October 1st. Mr. Sisson is simply bringing this to our attention, and that is a part of the contract that the city adopted a year ago. We're still calculating both the taxes paid on the wholesale part of the sanitation cost, as well as the calculations with regard to the diversion and the amount saved with regard to that. And we'll be prepared to make a recommendation. I've indicated to Mr. Sisson, I thought that it would be best that we do this on a calendar basis, and so we'll be giving you that information as it becomes available. On the motion?
Gibson? Yielding? Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas? Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
I believe we have a special call. Let's go to the special call.
Yes, sir. This is a letter dated October 22nd, 2004. Honorable members of the City Council regarding special council meeting. Dear members of the City Council, this is to advise that we have called a special council meeting of the North Little Rock City Council for 7:05 p.m. on October 25, 2004 at City Hall Council Chambers, North Little Rock, Arkansas. The following will be on the agenda. A resolution expressing the City Council's support of entering into a joint effort with Warren Stevens for development of riverfront property and authorizing a contribution by the city of up to 50% of the cost associated therewith and for other purposes, sponsored by Mayor Patrick H. Hayes, respectfully submitted Mayor Patrick H. Hayes, and has been signed by all 8 council members.
Would you, I guess that's essentially calling the resolution. Could I ask for a motion?
Move for adoption. Second.
On the discussion, I've asked, and we have 2 gentlemen that are here, Frank Thomas and Russ Meek. Russ and Frank, would y'all like to come to the microphone and let me just, by way of introduction, Russ has been a friend for a long time. We attended the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville together. We both were in the Sigma Chi fraternity, and I helped Russ get through college with a lot of tutoring and certainly a great deal of effort. In all seriousness, 15 years ago when we were up at Fayetteville, it was nice to matriculate with you. Although I think we could add a few to that. Frank, we've known obviously for a long time. With Senator Pryor and now with our good friend Warren Stevens and Stevens Inc. Across the river. And Russ is also on the executive committee, I believe, for the Arkansas Travelers, and I know I've had the opportunity to work with him over the last 6 months as well as Frank, and both of them I wanted to be here to both make a few comments and also confirm how excited I think the entire community, in fact, I feel the entire community is about the opportunity that we have in working with the Travelers and Warren and the business community and the public sector on a much broader basis to put together a pathway so that sooner rather than later we'll be hearing at least 60, how many home games, Frank? 60 home games a year we'll be hearing play ball echo from the downtown area of North Little Rock. In last council meeting, and then I'll ask them to make a few comments. Last council meeting, when you heard Bob Gorman talk to us about our desires for the downtown area and the compilation of those desires in several different drawings, Alderman Height asked Mr. Gorman what could we do as a community that would jumpstart us being able to see reality come to that plan, and recalling that response, it was to take that 22 acres and make that drawing a reality. Well, we're well on the way, and I want to thank again both Warren Stevens as well as the Arkansas Travelers and this community. I think we've got a battery that's going to hit a home run. Russ, you want to be first to the mic and just introduce yourself?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. My name is Russ Meeks. I'm Vice President of the Arkansas Travelers Baseball Club, Inc., which is our official and legal title. And I just want to say to the council and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure it is for the Arkansas Travelers to have an opportunity to be a part of this project. The ownership and management of the Arkansas Travelers have never paid a dividend. We put all of our money back into baseball for one sole purpose, and that's to keep Major League Baseball in this area for the children. And it's been very important for us for all of these years to do that, and the way that we can continue to do that is to be a part of this partnership. And obviously we thank the Mayor Hayes and the vision that he has and that the council has to include us in this project, and we thank Mr. Stevens, of course, for his donation of the land for the purposes of the ballpark. This is a great opportunity for the quality of life for everybody in this community and surrounding areas. And actually, we draw all the way from any direction that you want to go, from Jacksonville and Lone Oak and Cabot and Pine Bluff and Sheridan, and all the way over, of course, to Maumelle, to Conway. And we draw from all of this area on a nightly basis. So that truly puts this project in the center of our fan base, and we expect great things, but mainly we expect to keep baseball where kids can go and watch the players of tomorrow. And that's what we thank you for giving us that opportunity. Thank you.
Russ, Frank, thank you, Russ.
Mr. Mayor, member of the council, I'm Frank Thomas. I work for Warren Stevens, and let me just say, a couple of years ago, some of you may have attended a speech at the Greater Little Rock Chamber where Mr. Stevens made the comments at that time that got some press coverage that we are one community and we should not let the river divide us. I think Mr. Stevens' desire to reach out across the river to help make this project happen is an example that he truly wants to see that happen, that we are one community. And this will be a great opportunity for all of us to point to this project as a point of progress that means a lot, not just for the greater Little Rock area, but the whole state. And we're excited to be a partner with the North Little Rock Council and the Arkansas Travelers, and we too look forward to the words "play ball" being said just a few blocks from here. Thank you.
Any council? With that, on the motion?
Gibson?
Yeah, I have a motion, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And let the record reflect unanimous, and we're off and running. I know there are things that we're going to be working on to put the expertise together so that we can build that pathway, and I'm sure we'll be playing ball a lot sooner than people expect. Thank y'all for being here. You're welcome to stay. This is the last meeting before the elections on November the 2nd, so you might have some interesting entertainment that's on its way. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. show presentation, Bob Major, Cat Aboard. Mr. Major.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, boy, this is exciting times now. Submarines, ballparks, rejuvenated downtown, and how much of a better way to get around than a streetcar.
Absolutely.
So I'm here tonight as chairman of the CATA board and one of your North Little Rock representatives to thank the council for your support through this project. It's been going on from the very mind thinking stages of about 6 years, and it's come to fruition. I know y'all have seen this trolley going around out now, and boy, it's a pretty sight, and I think you're going to enjoy riding it. The ride over the bridge is going to be worth the price of admission. But tonight, again, I want to thank the council, and I want to thank all the departments from the city of North Little Rock that have helped in this project. I'm sure, I'm not going to name them all, but we've used almost every department at a point in time, and we appreciate the support. And with that, you should have found some Richard Despain prints at your chair and a poster for you. But we have a framed picture of the trolley, maybe a great place right here for it in the council chamber. This is a rendering or picture of the trolley that you'll see. You'll be able to ride. And I'm going to ask very quickly for Betty Wineland, Central Arkansas Transit's marketing director, to give you a brief overview of some of the activities coming up to celebrate the opening of this new era of old-time public transit in Central Arkansas and North Little Rock.
Betty?
And believe it or not, I really don't remember when streetcars were running here. And probably most of you won't believe it. But I do want to tell you that on November 1st, that's next Monday, we do have our ribbon cutting ceremony. And we're going to have the first one in North Little Rock at the Alltel Arena trolley stop. And Mayor Hayes, Judge Valines, Terry Hartwick, and we will have a representative from the Federal Transit Administration who will speak to you. And the North Little Rock High School Band is going to participate. In fact, they are going to lead the trolley across the bridge into Little Rock for the second presentation, where Mayor Daley and Judge Valines will, and I believe the Little Rock Chamber will participate there. And from that point forward, the streetcar will be running and will be free for the first week through the 7th of November. On November the 5th, that's a Friday, First Security Bank in Little Rock they're going to grill hot dogs for us from 11 to 1 p.m. in the East Pavilion of the River Market. And we invite all the good folks in North Little Rock, the council, and everyone here in the audience to come down for the ceremony on Monday and to come over, catch the trolley and come over to Little Rock on Friday and have a hot dog. Actually, the occasion is from 11 to 1 or until as long as supplies last. We have 1,000 hot dogs, and so get there before 1 if I were you. And then on Saturday, we move the majority of the entertainment back to North Little Rock, and at the Alltel stop again, radio station B98 is going to be broadcasting. They're going to be giving away prizes, as is Channel 7, some door prizes from merchants along the route, and we will have a lot of entertainment. We're going to have entertainment at many of the stops, the most of which will have a magician, musicians. There will be face painting for the children. We'll have balloons. We're giving away 5,000 of the posters that the council is receiving tonight. And, well, this is going to be a lot of fun. And we will have also on Friday in the River Market Pavilion, we'll have Bob Boyd's Bob Boyd Sounds Jazz Band, and they're going to be playing for us for those hours for hot dogs and Bob Boyd. It's a good combination. And then come over on Saturday. On Saturday, the event is between 2 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So be sure that you come, bring your kids, your grandkids, and let's all have a good time and go for a trolley ride. And remember, all next week is going to be, beginning on Monday, is going to be free. Thank you very much.
Mr. Major, you want to come back up, or Betty, and tell us what the schedule is going to be during that week? Did I hear you say, or did I miss that? The time when it's going to run?
Okay. I'm going to try, Mayor Hayes. Okay, Monday through Wednesday, the North Little Rock route is going to run starting at 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the evening. It's going to run what we call the North Loop in North Little Rock. And on Thursday and Friday,
Will the North Loop go across the bridge?
not Monday through Wednesday.
Okay.
On Thursday and Friday, between 11 and 1:30, it's going to run the North Loop. Starting at 1:30, it will run the entire loop. That's Thursday and Friday, and that is also from on Thursday and Friday, it's from 11 to midnight. And then on Saturday and Sunday, there will be one streetcar running the entire loop. The South Loop will run in Little Rock 7 days a week, just that same route. So actually, you'll have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when one of the streetcars will be running the entire
So this is during the
route.
introductory period, or, you know?
This is totally, let's see how it works out.
Okay.
And so, you know, we welcome comments, and I'm sure we'll get some.
The North Loop will cross the bridge.
Oh, yeah. The North Loop is going to, when the North Loop runs, it does cross, and it stops at the Little Rock Chamber stop at the foot,
So
the
if
south
you
end of
want
the
to
bridge.
cross the bridge, you'll have to ride the North Loop?
Yes. Because the South Loop will not cross the bridge ever. And
If you want that
actually,
beautiful view, you
that's
need to
the
cross
best, that's the
North
best part of
Loop.
the, that's the best part of the ride. So I think everybody's going to
One of
want
the most visually exciting parts of the trolley ride will be riding the North Loop because of the bridge.
Yes.
That's right.
And when you're sitting on the side next to the river, to that guardrail, and you look down, you don't see the rail. You just think, well, you know, I'm floating above the Arkansas River, and I hope I stay up here. But it's totally safe, but it's fun. It's just really, it's exciting. And in order to see that, you have to come to North Little Rock.
Now, when the regular schedule starts operating, has that been set yet?
This is basically the regular schedule for now. You know, we're going to do this for 30, 60 days and see how that works out.
So when you say regular, we're sort of molding.
It is, yeah, it is a temporary regular schedule. In fact, I'm having very few schedule brochures printed up because I'm sure that this is going to change.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
thank
we
you.
look forward to working with you on that, on the beginning. What was the time again? Monday at
Monday at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock,
At the Alltel stop.
which is right in front of City Services.
Right.
And, you know, join us for a grand time. If you're the first 1,000, is that what you said? You get a hot dog?
On Friday.
On
Now,
Friday.
That's Friday, between 11 and 1, and that's at the River Market.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Anybody's got any questions? All right,
Okay,
we're ready
thank
to
you.
ring the bell.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. And I've got my Brotherhood Locomotive Engineer license, so if you need a sub, let me know. Let's see now. A couple things I want to announce right here at the first. First of all, Halloween is October the 31st. Has been, and at least as far as I'm concerned, always will be. And so this city has not taken any action to do anything other than to encourage people to enjoy Halloween, celebrate it with your family, friends, and I'm going to celebrate it with my two granddaughters, one of whom arrived 2 days after the last council meeting. So Isabella Jo will be a sunflower, and Savannah Lou will be a kitten. So anybody, you know, I'll have pictures after that. So if anybody wants, you know, to enjoy that, I'll be happy to share it with them.
Mayor,
Mr. Height.
I had had a couple of phone calls regarding that, and I had learned during the process of answering these phone calls that deciding that Halloween was going to remain on Sunday night is something that you've worked on in recent weeks past. Is that correct? I mean, you just didn't make that decision today.
No, I mean,
You had checked into it.
well, I mean, you know, it's generally my practice that absent the council otherwise indicating, you know, that holidays are on the days that they normally fall on, and that's been, my general direction, absent the council giving me instructions otherwise. So, no, this is not just a recent announcement. It's long been what I said, and anytime I'm asked that question, that's what my answer's been. So, you're correct in that, but in order to clarify any phone calls or anything that anybody has, we're encouraging you to celebrate the holiday, celebrate it on the day that it's normally set, but we want you to celebrate it, bottom line, whenever and however you want to. That's your choice, but do it in a safe and family way is what we're encouraging people to do. One other thing, and I'm going to present this to Ms. Whitby, and I'd like to read this proclamation. We've been partnering with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, has been partnering with the Federal Reserve, and so I'd like to make this declaration. Whereas for the first 3 months of this year, number of personal bankruptcies in the state set a new record. Only 8 other states had a higher rate of filing personal bankruptcies last year. And whereas to help Americans understand and protect their finances, the U.S. Conference of Mayors has jumped on the bandwagon for financial literacy with the DollarWise campaign. And another key player in this effort is the Federal Reserve System, which has long sought to educate the American public about the economy in general and is now reaching out with lessons and warnings on personal finance. Whereas the DollarWise campaign has to encourage the development of local financial literacy strategies to educate citizens about financial issues with improved personal income, money management, and planning skills, citizens will be in a better position to own homes, raise healthy families, educate their children, and invest in small businesses. And whereas the Federal Reserve's website, www.federalreserveeducation.org, links users to helpful information. A good place to start on the website is with the link. There's a lot to learn about money, where practical tips can be found setting goals, budgeting, and using credit wisely. And whereas the Argenta Community Development Corporation in North Little Rock offers a financial fitness class to all residents of Pulaski County, the Family Service Agency in North Little Rock has teamed up with several financial institutions to start the Get Checking program to help those of you who do not have a bank account. And our community supports the existing financial literacy opportunities that are already underway with these organizations. So, final now that I now therefore, Patrick Hayes, proclaim the week of October 25th through 29th as 2004 as Financial Fitness Week in North Little Rock, and urge all of our citizens to take part in many of these worthwhile programs. So let me just present this to Ms. Whitby for the official record, and again, let all our citizens know that the Argenta CDC is a great place to start. We appreciate the Federal Reserve and what it does, and we look forward to sharing whatever knowledge that may be helpful in reaching the goals that are referred to in that proclamation. Thank you for your attention. Now, I think the next thing on the agenda is a public hearing.
Could I have one moment to bring a report from the
Sure.
residential design? On your desk is kind of just a discussion. We met today, the Residential Design Review Study Committee met today at 5 o'clock, and we have instructed planning to put it into final draft form. We'd like to have a 7:05 public hearing at the November 8th meeting, and we'll discuss at that meeting with intentions to vote no earlier than the November the 22nd meeting.
When's your public hearing?
I'm requesting 7:05 on November 8th.
November, what date?
Correct, 8th, is that our first meeting? Yeah, 8th.
Yeah, it'd be the 8th.
Without objection, we'll call the public hearing as requested by the chairman of our Residential Design Review Study Committee. Anything else, Alderman? All right, 7:05 public hearing. I think this is Alderman Witcher regarding repealing of ordinance, or regarding Ordinance 0463, repealing ordinance number 7176, the sign ordinance and amendment thereto, and replacing North Little Rock Municipal Code Section 81-3. I'm going to, first of all, convene that public hearing, but turn it over to Alderman Witcher for any comments, and then we'll open the floor.
Mayor, this is a compilation of a lot of work by our Planning Commission over the last couple of years regarding sign issues, which all of you know is one of my pet projects. There are some basic changes in the legislation having to do with size. And then there are some other changes regarding some prohibitions on the number of times a sign can change within a certain set period. That having to do with, we don't want a sign that's a moving sign on a regular basis, which is a new fad in the billboard industry in particular. And there are some other minor changes within the compilation of the code. And this is the opportunity for any of those that have a specific issue with that ordinance to state their differences and us talk about those. I do not intend to call this for the final reading until the next council meeting.
With that introduction, comments are open. Anyone care to come up and make any comments relative to this legislation? Going once?
I've got it.
I think Mr.
I have one. Mr. Witcher, if you turn to page 17, I finally found the question.
Okay.
8322 says that the following signs shall be permitted in residential R0, 1, 2, 3, 6, and RT. Well, and it refers to that anything in 8321 can be put there. I don't believe we want 6 and 7 to be able to be put in residential districts.
Commercial signs.
I know a company or organizational flag is definitely one. I'm not sure what two-directional information signs mean, but I think those are made to be in something other than residential zones. I think probably 1 through 5 are not a problem. And you can go back to the committee that brought those in. I'm not trying to amend it now.
Okay, sir. Got that.
It is just, I think that there's going to be some question if you want those in residential zones or not.
Okay.
Okay?
We have, yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Jasper Burton. I'm with Cureton Sign Company in Conway. My grandfather started the business in 1920, so I kind of inherited it and been in it all my life. First real job where I was doing any work was actually over on East 12th Street, where we had a building there and operated service truck out of there. I've been involved in signs all my life and represented various cities and worked with cities in developing and creating sign ordinances from scratch. I am concerned. I want to make sure that you people understand that you're dealing with the most effective advertising tool that the businessman has. Without any question, I think there's plenty of documentation, and when you start restricting that, you're going to restrict their income, which ultimately trickles down to restricted revenue to you. Some interesting facts that you may not be aware of. 15% of the population nationally relocates. That's a lot of people moving, coming and going all the time. And signs are essential for the individual businessman, particularly the small businessman, to succeed in business. If you can't see the sign, there's really no point in having it. We're looking at cutting down the size of the sign by 30%, which is a big step. If you can't see the sign or you can't read it in time to react, then it's going to be unsafe. And I don't know, I know in Conway traffic's a nightmare, but we have an aging population. Nobody's getting any younger, and we all need glasses or contacts or both. And you need to be able to see the sign in time to read it and react. And it's going to be a problem. It's the most effective tool. In Torrance, California in 97 and 99, they did a study of 165 businesses, and they each talked to about 15 new customers that had never been there. into their store. 50% of them said they came in because of the sign. You know, times are tough. There's no panacea out there. Everybody in small business is working and scratching and doing everything they can to make ends meet and make a profit and generate sales. I think you need to be very careful before you start taking away one of the most effective tools that the individual businessman, woman has in their town. The square footage on the pole sign today is 160 square feet, which is the same as in Little Rock. Now, I worked with Little Rock City, and they've gone from little bitty, depending on how big a lot you got, to a flat 160. And this has worked well for them and simplified the ordinance and actually the calculation of how to figure out the square footage. But I think it's very important. I just want to be sure that y'all realize, you know, it's not going to, in my business, I'm in Conway, and I do a lot of business in North Little Rock. But I'm more concerned about your community and your business people. And you just need to remember that those are the people that you're affecting and their ability to make a profit. I appreciate y'all taking time to hear me, and I'll be glad to work with you or the Planning Commission or the Sign Board of Review in developing something that is equitable and that we can all live with.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Microphone's still open.
All right, Mayor, I believe Mr. Burton was referring to section 83-24 for I-1, I-2, and I-3, size 72 down to 64 square feet, and the awning 33 to 25, and then the ground-mounted signs from 160 to 120 square feet. That's 10 by 12 sign, y'all. And a reduction of an awning sign from 50% of the surface area to 25% in 8326. Is that right, Mr. Burton? Okay.
Thank you, Alderman. Yes, sir.
Mr. Witcher, my name is Jim Ard. Does this include banners also, what you're working on?
Yes, it does, Mr. Ard.
I have a plea from some of the people. They have to go down and get a banner permit. A lot of people don't understand this. Why can't we have something in there that you pay a one-time fee each year, which will allow you so many banners if you think you're going to use them? That way, code won't have to run all over this town for something that doesn't amount to that much, trying to see they have a banner sticker on their side, which I bet I can say 40% of them don't have banner stickers. So consider that when you're planning all this, sir. Thank you.
Microphone's still open. What's your pleasure, Alderman? Recess it or adjourn it? I'm sorry, Alderman.
Okay, I have a question, and first of all, I think it'd be easier to do this a little bit different. I know you use the old ordinance as a base for the amendment, but it's kind of confusing as to, you know, this sign's prevented in this zone. In fact, what Barton was talking about, if you take out 7 and 8, you're going to affect other parts of the ordinance, so it won't be as simple as
No, I'm
taking
sorry.
out 7 and 8.
Not take out 7, 8, taking 7 and 8 out of 8322.
Right, but if you do that, you're going to affect other parts of the ordinance.
I don't think so.
Because it refers back to the different sections. It says you can have signs that's referred to in other sections.
I don't think it refers any of them back to 8322. It refers all of them back to 8321.
Okay.
And so I'm just saying, in 8322, we're going to exempt 6 and 7. In 8322, you can have any, which is the residential zones, you can have everything in 8321 with the exception of 6 and 7. And that leaves 8321 intact, which is the one they refer back to.
Okay.
Best I can tell.
Well, each section refers
To
back
80
to 8321, and I think it just makes it a little bit harder for people who just get the ordinance that want to see what they can do. And it's just a suggestion. I don't know if there's another way to do it. And then my other question is signs, and I couldn't really find it in here. but I know that people have called code, or code has told people you can't have a sign within so many feet of the right-of-way, or
Yes.
in the right-of-way.
Yes.
And then somebody called down there and say, well, there's signs down here in the right-of-way, and they said, well, those are real estate signs and they're exempt. Well, wait a minute, I couldn't find that in here. I couldn't find that anything's exempt from being in the right-of-way. And, you know, there's a safety reason for somebody not, if there's an 8-foot on a political sign, why does a real estate sign get to be right on the curb sticking out there?
My recollection is there is not an exemption, Mr. Yielding.
There's not an exemption.
That's my recollection.
That's what code was telling some people, so, you know, and then there's the you know, all-encompassing garage sale sign, you know, that seems to get put up everywhere, and,
You
know,
got something to add to this, Mr. Boyles?
Yeah, go ahead.
Say the real estate's allowed one on the parcel, not on the right-of-way. We did put 8 feet of the curb on political signs because of past enforcement measures. It's difficult to enforce it, so we're trying to keep it off the right-of-way some for political purposes. Real
Right.
estate's supposed to be on private property.
Right, so no signs are supposed to be on the right-of-way, and
I think there's a
Ideally.
directional that was added at the last.
Ideally, they're not supposed to be.
Not supposed to be, but in reality, they are.
well, I mean, is that right? Because you're going to make other people remove a sign, but real estate people get to keep their signs on the right-of-way
The sign ordinance should be uniformly applied
and enforced?
and enforced.
You know, I would think so. And does this deal with those signs that say, go this way and then that way and then this way and then that way to find a house for sale? You know, where they put them up there on the street and...
Actually, in North Little Rock, those directional signs at the end of blocks are not permitted.
Okay, so those aren't permitted either.
Right.
Okay, and the directional sign saying house for sale is not permitted. All right, what about the open house signs?
Those are temporary signs, and you know we.
But they still shouldn't be in the right of way.
Well, of course, I don't think we address those, Robert.
So we just don't even address them
No.
at all. Okay.
And I mean, that might be something we might need to do.
Well, I'm just
You know,
trying to
it feels-
be fair and equitable to
I understand.
other people that put signs up, and all of a sudden, you know, they're told to remove it, and they're going to be ticketed or fined, and then they say, well, what about these other signs? And then code tells them that, well, no, it's okay. So you've told me, and I couldn't find it where they were okay. So you're telling me they're not okay,
No.
and they're violation of the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
Then that's the existing ordinance, I believe.
No, Central Arkansas water signs and people that are doing work in the street are
Exempt.
governmental signs.
Yeah.
And those are placed there by our ordinance. So people, no, they're placed there by our ordinance, so people will know who's working in the street. So we have a separate ordinance that deals with those, so we know who's cutting the street and who's doing what. So that's separate.
Alderman, you want to recess it or adjourn the public hearing?
Let's adjourn the public hearing.
All right, public hearing is hereby adjourned. Let's go to the old business, Ms. Whitby.
Yes, sir. Resolution 0474, Mayor Hayes.
Hal, I don't see Hal in the audience, so we'll hold it again.
Resolution 0494, Alderman Yielding and Barry.
I want to hold it, but could I ask a question of the
Sure.
mayor? Did we get any bid?
Mr. Smith was supposed to, with Commerce or Purchasing, was supposed to be advertising. I assume that they are. Chief?
Mayor, we're currently still working on the specifications. I hope to have them out for bid by the first of next week. This is a long, drawn-out process to put specifications together for an aerial apparatus.
All right.
Okay, we'll just hold it right now.
Next item.
Ordinance 0456, Mayor Hayes and Alderman Gibson.
What's our pleasure?
Been read twice, so we just hold it.
All right.
Ordinance 0461, Mayor Hayes, Alderman Gibson and Barry.
We want to call that for purposes of amendment.
Okay.
This is an ordinance creating North Little Rock Municipal Code 1046 prohibiting pit bull breeds of dogs within the city of North Little Rock. Third and final reading.
Yeah, we're not, as we said in the last meeting, it's not my intent to to call this legislation, but, you know, we are available for amendments, and I'd like to ask Mr. Grace to come to the microphone. I know Mr. Grace and I and our City Attorney Susky have an amendment that we'd like to propose, and I'll let Mr. Grace explain our amendment, maybe with input from our City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Over the last couple of weeks, we spoke with several people who were here objecting to the ordinance last time. We spoke with our veterinarians, and we came up with basically three recommendations. One would be to drop the insurance requirement. That's one recommendation. The other would be an exemption for certified show and performance Staffordshire Terriers and American Staffordshire Terriers with a lot of certification, so we can't prove that's what they are. And basically a stiff reclaim, like a $100 reclaim, and mandatory sterilization for dogs owned by violators, people who violate the ordinance.
And that's what this essentially contains that we've circulated, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, if you don't mind, Mayor, kind of explained a couple different things. What it does, it clarifies the grandfathering issue. It clarifies that any existing dogs, the current pit bulls or the breeds regulated, that currently have a license are grandfathered in if they comply with certain requirements. The requirement that they have proof of insurance is removed. That was a big concern of many pit bull owners. The second thing is it creates an exemption, and that is for Stafford Bull Terriers and American Stafford Terriers that are AKC, are proven to be AKC show dogs, can remain in the city. That's whether they're currently here or they're brought in the future. If they are AKC show dogs under this criteria, they can remain within the city. And then, as Billy pointed out, is the other change is the reclaim fee for if you have a dog that is illegal, it cannot be here by ordinance, and it is found, it will have a $100 reclaim fee if it is found before it is released. And then one other minor change is that it extended the reclaim period from 48 hours to 3 business days.
Now, tell me how this came about, Mr. Grace, Mr. Susky, how this legislation, these amendments came about. If I'm not mistaken, they were a result of consideration of comments made by both pit bull owners as well as, you know, people who are concerned and are supporting the ban. Is that?
Yes, sir, and also the North Little Rock veterinarians. They had a real concern with the insurance, and they want to support it. They realize we have a problem. They want to do something to help. And I have not, I don't know if any of them are here tonight. I don't think we do have one. I think they're in favor of it now. They were trying to support it last time, but they did not like the insurance being in there. And they also did like the fact that we are exempting show and performance dog. We're trying to do everything we can to make sure we don't hurt the good pet owners. We're just trying to get these out of the hands of the wrong people.
Can I ask for some council member to move for amendment?
I'll move for the amendment, and I got a question.
Second. Motion made and seconded. We're open for discussion. Alderman Gibson.
I guess I need to see the definition of 10-44 to make sure that we are not, that we're including vicious dogs, because what happens is we refer, under 1046, we refer to the bottom line. Any vicious dog is found at large in violations 1038, 44, 46. But I don't have a copy of that because in everywhere down through E1 all the way through, we refer only to pit bulls and not to other vicious dogs. And I think if we get the right definition of vicious dog, and there's that definition floated around this room several times, that it shouldn't be just a pit bull that fits under these criteria, but if they've made an attempt on a person or property or whatever, they need to be declared a vicious dog and fit into that category.
Of course, if any other breed, if I'm understanding you right, Alderman, if any other breed attacks someone or displays vicious behavior, that would cover any other breed, not the pit bull.
Well, but I'm referring to what we say down in E. We in E1, 2, 3, each one of these, it refers to just pit bulldog. It doesn't refer to any or other.
So what you want it to say, Alderman, is something, and I'll ask our
Or
city
other.
attorney, no pit bull or other vicious dog.
And I don't think I think because we've got a definition of a vicious dog over in 1044.
Right.
And I want to make sure that we can agree to that. And maybe I missed it, but we recur, on A9, we refer to vicious dogs, but we don't have a definition in here.
I don't think,
Essentially, if I could clarify, what that would be, for instance, when a dog's declared vicious, it's a 3-step procedure. Well, I guess 4-step. First of all, there's an act, whether it's attacked a person or another animal that is in a manner that causes damage or
Person,
property.
property.
There's an affirmative defense if it was provoked. Then the process is the animal control officer can declare it vicious. If the owner disagrees with that determination, they can then appeal to the director, Billy Grace. Then if the person disagrees with that determination, they can go to Pulaski County Circuit Court, and that has happened, I think, once or twice. So that's a procedure that we have. So what this would be is a dog that's questionable if it's a pit bull, and it has done one of these acts as a vicious dog,
What if
then
it's
it's
not a vicious
prohibited.
dog? It just has done one of these acts. It doesn't have to be a pit bull.
Yeah.
It can be a dog that has performed one of these acts. It's
Yeah,
it's
well,
done-
what happens to those, if you have a dog that's declared vicious, you can keep it in the city, as long as it meets these criteria. Enclosed structure, it has to have a roof and a number of things. What this would be is any dog that we believe may be a pit bull and has declared this behavior as prohibited. But like any other dog, a Chihuahua or whatever the case that has done this behavior is declared vicious, you can keep it in the city, but it's regulated.
Okay.
So in other words, if somebody has an AKC dog and it attacks somebody, AKC dog that's exempt and it attacks somebody, that dog will be prohibited.
Becomes vicious then?
Yes.
Okay. I just need to get a copy of 1044.
Sure, we can do that.
That will break that down for me.
Alderman Yielding, then Alderman Witcher.
Okay, continuing Mr. Gibson's questions regarding vicious dogs, I guess, one of the things I said from the very beginning, and I think, Mr. Grace, you and I have had this conversation regarding vicious dogs, is, why can't we regulate the pit bulls through our vicious dog ordinance? Could you kind of give me a scenario of why?
we're just outnumbered, Alderman. We're dealing with criminals for the most part, and they'll throw a citation in the trash and keep on going. The ordinance is just not effective enough. We're overwhelmed. There's no way, we just can't deal with this on a case-by-case basis. There are just too many out there. The only way that I know that, and that's probably one reason I brought this out other than the citizens of Lakewood, that we could possibly deal with this is seize it on site and take it away from them. I don't, we would tie up we would probably have 10 times as many kennels as we have, tie up the court system. We're just overwhelmed with them.
Well, I'm a great believer in due process, but also, I recognize your problem, and I've always been real supportive of animal legislation. But I think that the owners of the property, should have some rights. But I also believe that they should bear the responsibility of the actions of those animals. So, I guess I'm wondering if perhaps if we went back and looked at our vicious dog ordinance, and perhaps we could make some changes that would adequately take care of this problem, instead of strictly banning a specific breed dog. I look at this as a last resort, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to vote for this, but I
appreciate your concern.
But I want something that is really more encompassing than just a specific breed.
I appreciate it. I don't know if you noticed the paper this morning, the 2 pit bulls we had to go out. I mean, we just had them last week, and they promised they were taking them out of the city, and they probably didn't make a day out of the city. And that scenario repeats itself hundreds times over. We're just dealing with some people here who will not obey the law, and I don't think we can deal with it on a case-by-case basis, but we'll certainly do what the council wishes.
Mayor, Mr. Seskey.
Yeah, Alderman, one thing to clarify on the vicious dog ordinance, it only applies once the dog's attacked. This ordinance would apply ahead of time. That's the distinction. One thing, to be clear, a lot of people say punish the owners. All we can do if a dog killed a child is fine them $500 and have the judge order the dog put to sleep. That's it.
Is that by state law?
That's by state law. All we can impose is a $500 fine per incident. And so as a result, that's where we're, hampered in enforcing this. This, can try to be prevented on the front end.
Alderman Yielding?
Well,
We're on my amendment now, or our amendment.
Yes, sir.
I'm on the amendment, and I agree with Alderman Witcher, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not, he says he may vote for it. I'm not going to vote for it because this is a ban. And actually, if you're out in areas of town that you may not have a lot of money and you can't take your Staffordshire Bull Terrier or your American Staffordshire Terrier and be a show dog, you just want to have it as a pet, it's banned. So I mean, it's nothing more than a ban of those dogs too. You got to have an AKC registration. You've got to have a 3-generation pedigree. You got to go proof of the dog being used as a dog show. Once the dog reaches age of 6 months, and tattooed, that's no big deal. But I mean, you're in effect banning the dog from most people. The bulldog is banned. And this is really, to me, I mean, it's not much of an amendment from where we were, and I'm gonna, now's as good a time as any, but I've done a lot of research on this, and having dogs, always having dogs, and knowing that any dog can bite somebody and any dog can hurt somebody bad. It doesn't have to be a pit bull. Here is Rottweilers responsible for most fatal dog attacks on humans. Right here, CNN.com, between 91 and 98. So if we were sitting here between 1991 and 1998, we'd be talking about banning Rottweilers, and I believe this council sat and had that discussion once about banning Rottweilers. So what will it be next? And those people said that, and they're perfectly right. What will it be next that they're going to ban? People need to understand that, and you say, well, we can't do anything about it. Well, we have the law, and those people are going to be responsible, and we can make it so those people are responsible. But we're, in a sense, going to ban these dogs. And there may be 4 or 5 people in the city who meet the required sections as a show dog and in a show, but the other people are not going to be able to meet those, and their dogs are going to be banned. I had an amendment. I wanted to see what this amendment was, but my amendment was more on restricting the dogs. I'll get back down to this amendment, though. It depends on where you are as to what kind of dogs are the worst, okay? It just depends on where you are. In Canada, blue heelers and others, and Labradors and German Shepherds were the ones that had the problems. And in Australia, it was blue heelers were like number 1. You know why? Because there's more of them than there is anything else. So they were mean. They were, they could get mean. They could bite people. There were deaths caused by them. We could be talking about any kind of dog. I have a chow mix, so it could be next on down the road if it got to be a lot of chow mix. I think you'll find that these people that are criminals that are using these dogs, if they can't have these dogs and they want dogs for protection, or not protection, but to keep people out of their drug houses or whatever, they'll just go get a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd or some other type of dog. And then we're going to be back up here at some time in the future banning those dogs and affecting a lot of other people. We've got to make the people responsible for what they do. And we've got to make the dog owner responsible. And I think that, as a good compromise, the dogs should be restricted. And there should be restrictions on the dog. And I think the dog that needs to be restricted is a American Pit Bull Terrier or a Gated Terrier. That's what they call it, I believe. Those should be restricted, and they have to be on chain. Not on chains, but put in enclosures or on a leash, which you're supposed to be doing anyway. You're supposed to have your dog on a leash, that sort of thing. But this amendment really just continues to ban all these dogs. As I say, how many people show their dog at dog shows? Not very many. but there's a lot of people that may have these dogs. And then also there's some people need to educate their kids and other people about going up to dogs and messing with dogs, and that they could be dangerous. Now, that doesn't mean if one's loose running around, which you're not supposed to do, that we shouldn't, do something about that. And those people shouldn't be fined, and there should be some list of things that if they do 1, 2, and 3, then they're going to lose their dog, or their animal shelter's going to take it or whatever. But we need to look at the vicious dog ordinance, because any dog, it could be another breed. It could be a vicious dog, not just this dog, not just these. And like I say, this amendment really just bans these.
The
It
amendment,
bans all the dogs.
amendment really doesn't change the basic thrust of where
Right.
we're going. It does make it, in my mind, more palatable to those who were originally opposed to the legislation prior to this potential amendment. And while you're right, it does ban that breed. It does grandfather those that are presently in the city if certain criteria are met. And one of the biggest criteria that would have essentially probably even banned those that were there is the removal of the insurance requirement. So I know that there's a big step in the direction of trying to find a compromise, albeit an exercise that will perhaps never be totally successful, but it does go in the direction of trying to compromise it more so than what it originally was. And as such, I would encourage us to adopt this. Now, obviously, it's still there for further amendment whenever the council might choose to do so.
Well, like I said, it could be any type of dog. Any type of dog could be dangerous if it was trained to be that way, and
About the vicious dog.
we really need to deal with vicious dogs, and if we want to restrict these breeds and make sure that these people are registered, have their dog registered, and have a dog license, and have all this, which all dogs are supposed to have, but if we want to be really specific on some breeds, I think that is a good compromise.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Any further discussion on the amendment?
I don't know if this is really on amendment. Will there be a cleaned up ordinance for us at the next time?
That's my intent. Okay. That's correct, depending on what we may adopt tonight. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Just a couple of questions of Mr. Grace. You said you had a meeting with all the veterinarians in North Little Rock?
I didn't meet with all the veterinarians. I met with 3 veterinarians, and they were representing. Dr. Allen came up and spoke on the rest of them, and the ones that I talked to said they would make sure the others are informed.
Okay, but you hadn't had any feedback from those that were not present?
I spoke to Dr. Ashley, Dr. Allen, and Dr. Robertson with our latest update. They're very encouraged, and they said they indicated they thought it's something they can live with. I've not heard back from them.
So they were in favor of this amendment?
Those 3 were when I talked to them, but now I didn't get that in stone. They're just very encouraged that heard we were exempting the show dogs from this.
Is there any future plans to have a kind of a feedback meeting with those 3 veterinarians as to what the rest of the veterinarians consider about this amendment?
The last word I got from them was they will talk it over and call me.
Again, we're not, it does not intend to rush to judgment. We're amending now. I think this is a movement in the right direction. Both parties, both sides seem to feel this is an improvement. Certainly a vote for this amendment would not be considered a vote for the legislation, or even any attempt to not perhaps subsequently amend it.
Mayor, can I respond to one thing I heard?
Sure.
I've heard this a lot since this started, and Alderman Yielding alluded to it. I don't think anyone has ever said that the pit bull bites more often than other dogs. They don't bite the most often. It's just that they have such a they can do so much damage. And I can't remember my number. I think they have like 2,000 to 2,500 pounds per square inch, whereas a lab has about 900, something like that. Is that about right, based on the figure? And I've been working dog bites for 30 years, and there is nothing that compares to a pit bull bite on a human, especially a child. There's no comparison.
Alderman Height?
Mr. Grace, I was wondering, do you have any idea what the population in North Little Rock of American Pit Bull Terriers and Stafford Bull Terriers, American Staffordshire Terriers, and American Bulldogs are?
I have no way of measuring, because we feel like about 90% of them are illegal.
Pardon me?
They're illegal. We have no way of measuring by our license ordinance, because most of them don't get a license.
So if we were to pass this ordinance, do you feel like that the owners of these 4 breeds are going to line up out there and register them?
I hope not. Was your question, do I think they will?
Are they gonna line up to
No, I do
register?
not think they will. I think these are people we're going to have to take them away from.
Okay, so what
They
I
won't
think,
obey that law for the reason they've not obeyed any other laws.
what I think we ought to build into this is regulate compliance, is what we ought to be tough on, is non-compliance with this regulation, is what I think we ought to work on.
How many laws you can pass?
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion. I mean, on the same, if you know all these dogs out here that don't have license and don't have rabies shots, why don't we do something about it?
Most of them have had citations written. I would venture
So
to
if
say
we-
that we could probably, the majority of pit bulls in this town or pit bull owners have probably had a citation at one time or another.
You got them inside the house?
Well, if they're inside the houses and they're not hurting anything, are they?
On the motion?
Gibson,
On the amendment, yes.
Yielding,
No.
Robinson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Motion
Motion's
carries.
adopted. Floor is open.
No, we got that.
Any other discussion on any other motion?
Bring another amendment back.
Then let's clean that up, Mr. City Attorney, and it'll be on the
Makes it
calendar
read
for the
the
next
second
meeting.
time, doesn't it? That means it's been read the second time.
It's been read 3 times.
How many?
3.
Okay.
Next item.
Doesn't mean no.
Ordinance 0462, Mayor Hayes.
I held that last time. I'm certainly ready to call it or hold it again. I forgot who asked me to hold it.
I did, and I've checked it out, and it's fine. Let's go.
All right, please read it.
This is an ordinance amending the city's Land Use Plan 2002 to recognize the Biomeda Water Management District's proposed water diversion from the Arkansas River, third and final.
Move for adoption.
Second. On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding,
Yes.
Robinson, Thomas,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
and Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding,
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
Yes.
and Witcher.
Yes.
Ordinance 0463, Alderman Gibson. Alderman Witcher, I'm sorry.
That's the other one over
Yeah,
there.
that,
The one with less hair, the one on the other side.
I'm sorry.
the one with more hair.
I was just thinking about you.
I don't know, I don't want to run any race with it.
Second reading, please, and then hold it.
One has the longest hair. I put
The
that
one
way.
has the longest, no, I don't know. It's-
This is
Please
a-
read the ordinance.
This is an ordinance repealing ordinance number 7176, the sign ordinance, and all amendments thereto, replacing North Little Rock Municipal Code, Section 83-1, second reading.
And I understand it'll be held now. Let's go to new business.
Resolution 0498, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing acceptance of funds from the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management to the North Little Rock Fire Department for the purchase of a truck.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Ordinance 0464, Alderman Vestal and Barry.
Call it, please.
Ordinance 0464.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use of a mobile home to be operated as a MEMS 24-hour station in an R2 zone for certain property located at 100 Auburn in the city of North Little Rock. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place the ordinance on its third reading.
Second.
Second reading.
Second reading.
Second reading.
Okay.
I will have one.
All right, we got a couple questions. Let's go ahead and take this on the suspension of the rules. Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and y'all want to take it to it, and then we'll do the questions.
Move to suspend the rules, place it on third reading.
She actually needs to read it the second time.
All right, well, let's read it then.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use of a mobile home to be operated as a MEMS 24-hour station in an R2 zone for certain property located at 100 Auburn in the city of North Little Rock. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place the ordinance on its third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Go ahead and read it, and then we'll go open it up for discussion.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use of a mobile home to be operated as a MEMS 24-hour station in an R2 zone for certain property located at 100 Auburn in the city of North Little Rock. Third and final reading.
Alderwoman Robinson, and then I believe Alderman Gibson.
I attended the Planning Commission meeting when this was discussed, and it seemed like there was a restriction placed,
Yes, there was.
and I don't see it in the ordinance unless I'm
That's correct.
overlooking it. But I think that those restrictions should be a part of this, if you all agree.
Do you have the restriction?
The mobile home was moved at one time to the south side of the building. In the last public hearing, it was agreed to move to the north side of the building.
Wasn't there a
There
five-year
was also a five-year.
time
limit.
Time period.
time frame?
Mr. Suski, can we go ahead and reflect that in the amendment, by way of an amendment?
Yes, at the end of...
Also,
At the end of Section 2, it should...
that's not the only restriction. There was also a restriction for vegetation between the building and the school if the school required it. And also, there was a restriction of the structure must be underpinned.
Under what?
Underpinned.
Mr. Walls, help me make sure we're careful
Yes,
about
sir.
this in the future, that when we have legislation that,
Check it.
that's remaining, that there are some conditions, that we work with the city attorney's office to make sure those conditions are reflected somewhere in the legislation.
We'll do it.
And if I recall correctly, I believe those are the only three restrictions that
That's
they
correct. I just
require.
talked with John, and there was a 5-year limit to underpinning, and if the school wanted the
Vegetation.
screening, it would be on the north side of the building.
Yes.
If the school required it.
Yes.
If the school did.
Yeah, because there was some discussion whether they actually wanted it or didn't want it because they thought they might have more vandalism with the screening than not. But we were going to let the school make that decision.
It was a recommendation of the Planning Commission, but MEMS would have to approach the school district.
Yes.
To know that.
So, Mayor?
Just a second, Alderman Suski? Alderman Suski. City Attorney says,
All right.
you're about to make an amendment for us.
This is my recommended amendment, that at the end of Section 2, the period after city requirements be a comma, and the following conditions, those words be added. Condition A, that this special use is for a 5-year period only. B, that vegetation shall be required if requested by the school, and C, North Little Rock School District, and C, that the mobile home shall be underpinned.
And I think on the north side of the lot.
It's on the north side of that lot.
And located on the north side.
And
of the lot.
located on the north side of the lot.
Okay, would someone care to make that
Second.
motion?
First.
So moved.
Alderman Vestal moved, Alderman Witcher seconded, that it be amended in accordance with Alderman Suski's recommendation on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal. Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes. Move for adoption as amended.
Second.
I got one other question.
All right.
Having been one who's been through way too many of these, that once, the amendment should probably read, once structure is no longer used by MEMS as a 24-hour station, the special use shall expire and mobile homes shall be removed.
That's motion, where's that going to be?
I'll second
There'd
that.
probably be a new Section 3 and change 4, 5, and 6.
All right, there's a motion made and seconded to that. Let me mention this too. I know I visited with John just a little bit before. I think it's our intent. They want to get started very quickly, and he's, the tough negotiator that he is, wants to utilize that property for $1 a year. It would be my intent to do that. I know we normally bring those to the council, and I would be more than happy to, but I wanted to announce that's my intent, and I will get legislation to do that. But if there's any objections for that at this point, I would ask you to raise those, because we want to move on that property, and I would enter into that without any formal adoption, unless y'all want to do a voice vote would be my request. Okay, well then I would go forward with that, with $1 a year lease on that real estate. Do I have a motion to adopt as amended?
First, we need to address the amendment.
Got to amend my amendment.
Okay, you hadn't voted on that yet? All right, let's vote on Alderman Gibson.
We need a motion, and that's his motion. We need a second.
All right, motion made and seconded on Alderman Gibson's expiration of the special use as long as that 24-hour facility ceases to be a 24-hour facility. On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes. Move for adoption as amended.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance 0465, Alderman Thomas.
Call it, please.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use for a group housing shelter and an outdoor thrift sales in a C4 zone for certain property located at 3719 East Broadway in the city of North Little Rock. First reading.
I'd like to move that the rules be suspended and placed on second reading.
Second.
On the
May we
motion?
discuss that before we vote on it?
Excuse me?
Would like to
All right.
discuss it.
There's a motion made and seconded to suspend the rules on the motion.
Gibson?
Votes no.
Yielding?
No.
Robinson?
No.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
No.
And Witcher?
No.
Motion fails.
Stays on the calendar.
Mayor, could we discuss
We
this just a
discuss it.
moment? I mean, I was probably trying to do this a little faster than that and just didn't get far. I've never seen Planning Commission pass something for consideration only. This is a first. We're talking about a group shelter for 50 men and an outdoor thrift store area. Now, I was trying to chase down my minutes of the meeting, and I have a real problem with that. I have a real problem with an outdoor thrift store area. This happens to be the old, as we better know it, as the
Kroger store.
The Kroger store. We're allowing the use of the entire piece of property, and it just says, and there's really just no conditions in here. I mean, it just says that it can be used, the whole piece of property can be used for this purpose, and I have really a problem with that. I mean, so.
We've got Alderman Vestal.
Robert?
We noted that before the meeting. Linda has the proposed amendments.
That this is actually two separate issues, that the way that the Planning Commission approved this thing is two separate items, not one.
Yes.
Okay, so I would suggest that in my opinion, I think we need to refile this completely and just deal with it at the next council meeting, because it is not anything like what you're reading here, the way it was passed by the Planning Commission.
Well, right now, where we are is it did not receive suspend the rules. We're talking about it sort of out of character a little bit, but, you know, there's no action. It's on the calendar, and it's up to the sponsor. Alderman Yielding.
Can I ask a question of the fire chief? Was this the building that we had so much trouble with? Correct. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
All right, it'll stay on the calendar, and Alderman Thomas, it's his legislation. Next item.
Ordinance 0466, Alderman Thomas.
Call it, please.
This is an ordinance establishing Haley's First Edition Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Number 1. First reading.
I'd like to move the rules be suspended and placed on
I
second
believe
reading.
there's a,
I got a question on it, but second.
okay.
Alderman, I'm sorry, Mr. Suski.
That's a job I
Just move
actually
on
don't
up
want,
here.
Mayor. Just want to let you know, we do need to set this for a public hearing. I'll talk to the attorneys who filed this at the next council meeting before we can go any further, but certainly you can take it to further readings.
All right, motion made. Is there a second? Suspend the rules?
There is.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the motion.
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
This is an ordinance establishing Haley's First Edition Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Number 1. Second reading.
I'd like to move the rules be suspended and placed on second reading.
We've still got,
Third reading.
we still have to have a public hearing.
Second.
Yeah, we're still going to have to call a public hearing, but that's fine. On the motion, suspend the rules?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, now let me, in accordance with our city attorney, that I'm trying to make an alderman advice, we'll call a public hearing at 7:05 at the next city council meeting. Might as well.
I have a question about
Just
it.
one second, then we can do that. Go ahead and read it.
This is an ordinance establishing Haley's First Edition Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Number 1, third and final reading.
Now it'll be held on the calendar subject to the public meeting that has now been called. Alderwoman Robinson.
My question, I guess, will be to Robert, and that is, this looks like 3 lots, and are we setting a precedence here in that, we want to make this an improvement district, and we're talking about making an improvement district for 3 lots? Help me here.
You can do that.
We can do that?
Well, you can, but you normally don't do it.
But normally,
Question, really.
excuse me,
I suppose that would be a legal question.
that's a legal question. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's actually more, yes, you can. It's more of a policy. My reading of the statute, if they meet the statutory requirements, we must grant it. And so whether or not it's efficient and works well, that'll be something they'll have to decide with how they finance the improvements and so forth.
So you're saying that if it meets the criteria, we really are sort of a rubber stamp?
That's correct. And that's
So
what...
it could be a postage size stamp district for all.
Yeah. Now, of course, how they're going to finance improvement on that postage stamp,
I understand, but our job is not the reason why.
That's correct. And so at the next council meeting, there'd be a public hearing, and you have those issues raised, and that's where you determine whether the petition is sufficient.
Okay, by my agenda, Ms. Whitby, this concludes it. Any council member? Alderman Vestal?
Mayor, I just like everybody remind everyone that a week from tomorrow is Election Day, and please go to the polls and exercise your right to vote. It's very important.
Yeah, I would encourage you also to acknowledge that those who may have a little difficulty, we had the most, the highest turnout, voter turnout. Voting started a week ago from the last Monday, and over 14,000 people exercised their right to vote. I don't know how it's carrying today, but you have from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock, except on Friday, and I think Friday it's from noon till 4. The hours are different, but
That's Saturday.
that's Saturday. What did I say?
Friday.
Friday, excuse me, Saturday. By way of equal time, I want to underline my excitement on October 13th. Again, I said something at the front of the meeting. I want to, give equal time at the end of the meeting to my second granddaughter, Isabella Joe, and hello Savannah Lou, if you're out there watching. So with that, any other council member, public comment section's open? I'm sorry, Mr. Alderman.
Fish fry.
Fish fry.
Fish fries.
Brother Paul's, the Friendly Chapel Fish Fry is this Friday. We're asking everybody to come and join us with that annual event, and literally thousands of people come and are a part of that evening at Altel Arena. And another little girl has entered our community. I know I'm told by Mr. Francis of the Times that Olivia Grace this afternoon came on the scene. KJ, as y'all know, who takes care of telling our stories on a fairly regular basis, has given birth to a young lady. So, the 25th of October is indeed a good month for young ladies in North Little Rock, and you tell Miss KJ that we're glad that Olivia Grace, mother and daughter, are doing fine, and we're looking forward to an on-camera interview. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Larry Remington. I'm one of the associate pastors at Parkway Place Baptist Church in Little Rock, and I want to give you all a personal invitation to something's going on in your city that we're helping to do along with several other folks. At the East Washington Police Substation, this Sunday afternoon, we've got 2 events going on. We've got a soapbox derby type thing. We've been working on that with a bunch of kids in the area. We had 50 kids out there yesterday working on it, had a bunch of them today. and we're looking for about 100 of them on Saturday. Going to have a soapbox derby race. We're going to give away bicycles and all kinds of stuff like that. That's from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we're going to have something called Trunk or Treat. And we're going to have, we've got 21 cars from our church who have committed to come out here. We've been working with Ray Smith and Pastor Sam Harris and Park Hill Baptist Church doing some things with different folks in this area. And we've got 21 cars coming out, going to open up their trunks. We're going to have all kinds of games, ring toss, all that different kind of stuff, and hand out all the candy that these kids can eat. So we've got bags, we've got, you would not believe our offices at our church. They're just packed full of candy. And it's the good stuff. It's not that cheap stuff, okay? So it's...
What are your times again, and where is it one more time?
It's at the East Washington Police Substation. We'll be there at from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock with the car race, and from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock with our what we call Trunk or Treat. We've got Ural City has graciously going to have a fire truck there, some police cars. Christian Motorcycle Association is going to have a bunch of Harleys out there. So we'd like for y'all to come bring new grandkids, bring new kids. We got food for everybody.
What's your age definition for candy kids you're going to pass out to?
I'm eating some candies.
All right.
And I'm 112, so I think that takes in all right.
And that's
so.
this Saturday?
This Sunday. Halloween. Yeah,
Sunday
this
afternoon.
Halloween. So.
Well, we sure appreciate you bringing that to us, and thanks again for being a part of that. It sounds like a grand event, and I hope a lot of folks come and bring their sack because they'll get filled up.
We'll even give them another sack. So
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Hayes, City Council, my name is Sonia Miller. And yesterday, I apologize first for reading my comments. A little upset about the situation. I feared if I didn't read them, my point would not be made. Yesterday, my husband and I were working Rose City off of Greenlee Street, going door to door, passing out our campaign literature. Late in the afternoon, after several hours, we noticed Mr. Thomas's truck parked on Greenlee Street, and soon noticed Mr. Thomas going door to door as well. For several houses, my husband and I noticed Mr. Thomas removing our door hanger literature from the doors and replacing it with his own. My husband and I confronted Mr. Thomas in the front yard of a residence on Greenlee Street, whereupon Mr. Thomas denied removing my husband's door hangers despite having some of our blue door hangers crumpled up in his hand. Mr. Thomas also stated I was removing some of my literature and replacing them. When asked why our door hangers were in his hand, Mr. Thomas started walking away. Mr. Thomas's literature is in black and white, where my husband's is black and white with our blue and white logo on it. As Mr. Thomas walked away, I asked Mr. Thomas to please replace our literature, and he stated, "You put it back if you want to." If they were in fact Mr. Thomas's door hangers, why would he tell us to place ours back if we wanted to? I'm offended that a representative of our city would lie and behave in such a manner. I do not tolerate this action from my 7-year-old foster daughter, and I do not feel that it is appropriate for an alderman of the city of North Little Rock to behave in a manner either. I doubt any other alderman or alderman candidate would behave in such a manner. The city deserves better, Ward 2 deserves better, and certainly Rose City deserves better. If Mr. Thomas is willing to lie about this matter, it makes me wonder what else he has lied about to the good citizens of Ward 2 and the city of North Little Rock. We have also had approximately 70 to 80% of our campaign signs damaged or stolen, and we would appreciate you not touching any more of our campaign information. My husband and I have taken great pains to not touch any of your campaign information or signs, and according to our records, we have noticed less than half a dozen of all of your signs which have been damaged, presumably due to vandalism, as opposed to the hundreds of ours. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Thomas, you owe both me and my husband an apology for your behavior, which we are expecting.
I would just like to say that I didn't remove any of your door hangers. I think that's what you're talking about. And I tried to told you yesterday that I didn't tell you, I told your husband, but I didn't remove those.
I realize that, Mr. Thomas, and I know what I seen, and I know what was said in the residents' front yard. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone's open.
My name is Bubba Lloyd. I live at 313 Skyline. I wasn't going to talk about this, but
the lady that just spoke brought something to my attention. One of their campaign workers or volunteers called me the other day trying to inform me that Mr. Thomas had some signs on my property insinuating that maybe I should remove them or maybe should have a problem with it. I'd already instructed Mr. Thomas that he could put his signs on my property. I think he's done a fine job for the city of North Little Rock for a number of years. He's set up there on the council. Mayor, there's two things I want to talk about, and I think just a little attention from you could take care of both of them. A long time ago, the late Mayor Reed Thompson told me that there was some property removed from the old mill. There's two pieces of furniture. I call it furniture. It's Greg, what is it made of? You would know more about it. The man who designed and built the old mill designed the furniture. You've seen those.
Rodriguez.
Yes, you've seen the wood. It looks like logs. Those two pieces sit in the front yard of Audrey Stanley. And why Parks won't go over there and pick them up is I can't imagine. I think it's time that someone do it. There are people on the city council who have known about it for years. And I think everybody's just scared of her because she's mean sometimes. But the fact is, that property belongs to the taxpayers of North Little Rock. You don't need to file a lawsuit. All you got to do is send a truck over there and someone can pick it up. It's ours. And she had some folks over there a few weeks ago trying to figure out how to move it. And I'm afraid that if that gets moved, we'll never see it again. The second thing I want to talk about, Mayor Lehman, who's a dear friend of mine and a friend to most folks who's grown up in this city, way back in the 60s told the city that we needed tennis courts. Parks and Recreation Department said, we don't have a need for tennis courts. No one plays tennis. We have tennis courts, one of the finest facilities in the southern region of the United States right now. A number of years ago, Mayor Lehman said that we need soccer fields. People on the Parks and Recreation Commission said we didn't need soccer fields. You stepped in about a year and a half later and made sure we got soccer fields. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the country. Mayor Lehman, in his position as a non-voting member of the Parks and Recreation Commissions, and hopefully soon as we have another appointment, can get a voting position, we hope, has tried to encourage the members of the Parks Commission that we need beach volleyball. That's the fastest growing sport in the country. It was the most watched event in the entire Summer Olympics we just had. Everything that he said about it's fallen on deaf ears, and I think he mentioned this to you, Mayor. And although you don't control the Parks Commission, certainly folks in those positions try to follow your lead. They followed on numerous projects that a lot of folks years ago wouldn't think that we would have here in North Little Rock because of your lead. We've got it, and I hope that you'll encourage those folks, the director and the members of the commission. We've got plenty. One thing we're not lacking in this city is land for parks and recreations and money to develop it with. And I hope you'll encourage folks, and hopefully here in the next short while we'll see those beach volleyball courses.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd, and I did talk with Mayor Lehman last week, and believe I've already talked to Mr. Rhodes and asked him to find some real estate, perhaps down by the skateboard park for a couple of courts, and we'll see how popular they are, and maybe we can move on. On the second item, Mr. Susky, while I don't dispute what Mr. Lloyd said, I want to ask you to work with both Mr. Lloyd as well as Mr. Rhodes and make sure that before we send a pickup truck over there and pull that stuff in the back of our car, that somehow we're not, title is not an issue, or if there is any question about title being an issue, make sure you institute any kind of legal proceedings that will resolve that. Do you have any help on that issue?
I've got a little. Audrey Stanley will sit here and tell you that the nephew of the man who built and designed that gave it to her. That was not his to give away. That property belongs to the city of North Little Rock. It was set down there at the old mill until you got old mill cleaned up and fixed up the way it should have been and kept for years. She went down there, I guess, to protect whatever it was. That's her story. But the fact is, you can't give something away if you don't own it. That'd be like me telling Mr. Susky he can take this podium home tonight, but it's not mine to give away. Nor was it that gentleman's, if he actually told her that. I've seen Miss Stanley tell things further from the truth under oath in court, but
Well, Mr. Seski, help, we don't want to lose that. I agree with Mr. Lloyd, and this is the first I've become aware that there may very well be some city property that's on private property, and so I'm going to seek your input from the direction that we don't want to lose what's there until title and the possession is determined.
We'll certainly do, Mayor. We'll even see if maybe the police department needs to look at it.
That's an option too, but the last thing we want to do is if there is a dispute on title, that property disappear while we're resolving that dispute.
That's correct.
So I'm going to ask for your lead in working with our Chief Bradley. Are you here?
Captain Davis.
Yeah. Captain Davis is back there, so, you know, we want to advise them, you know, that stuff doesn't need to disappear if they're not going to turn it over to us, and then we can resolve the title to it in court. And we will, you know, I did visit with Mayor Lehman last week, and I don't see where we can't have a couple sand volleyball courts by springtime.
Mayor, I'll remind you that Miss Stanley is up on her what you can give away and what you can't give away as far as what the city owns. Our late friend Artie Gregory, when he was head of the City Beautiful Commission, and I tried to give away azalea bushes at fire stations to residents of North Little Rock, and Miss Stanley brought it to our attention that was illegal. So
we don't do that anymore.
We don't do that anymore.
We don't try to violate the law if we can avoid it.
So moved.
On the motion, motion made and seconded. All right, Mr. Ard.
Sorry, Mayor. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. Before I speak, I'd like to word a prayer with your permission.
I've never objected to a word of prayer, Alderman.
Thank you. I like that title.
Well, I like it a lot better than mayor. Let's put it that way. But I've been making everybody alderman tonight, so I'm gonna allow you to do that, Mr. Ard.
Father in heaven, there seems to be a lot of bitterness in these campaigns. Father, what I am fixing to say, I ask it be pleasing in your sight, and people will listen. I'm not doing this to show. I'm doing it to prove a point, I hope. Father, be with our people overseas. And Father, forgive me for getting upset with Alderman Yielding this afternoon with his attitude. Forgive us of all our many sins. And help us in this election that we look and see if any of our freedoms are going to be taken away, who we choose for president, alderman, mayor, or whatever. I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Thomas, did I not call you last night, sir?
Now, one of the things, let me just hold on a second. Let me just mention Mr. Ard. Now, you know, they're part of the public comment section is that you can ask questions, but I know that there's absolutely no requirement for any member of this council to respond. You have the floor, and you can, you know, comment, you can ask questions, but the choice of responding either now or later is up to the council.
That's fine. This is a copy of Mr. Miller's door hangers. This is a copy of Olin Thomas's door hangers. For many years, I've heard hearsay, and it's hearsay. But when someone comes forward with some truth and some proof, I don't like to talk an alderman down, because I took up for Greg Yielding when a citizen got up here and talked him down many, many months ago and got a little hot water, but I stuck up for him. I do know they come to you, and I come to you. And all I say is, please quit doing these things to get elected. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just want you to see the error of your ways. If I was in your place, I would ask to take a truth verification test. Oh, it's not funny. Politics is not funny. please see the error of your ways and what you've done. It's kind of like Alderman Vestal. He made a suggestion I run for mayor. I thought he was sincere. But other night at Levy Day, oh, I didn't want you to run against me. Didn't you catch on? If I'm elected as alderman, I will do not only what he does, but I will help citizens get things done when they have problems with different organizations in the city. I know you're getting tired of listening to this, Mayor. I'm watching your expression. Mayor's job would be great, too. But, Mayor, you're hard to beat. I'm not going to say you're not. Johnny Parker wouldn't be in this race if I hadn't helped him get his signatures. Now he's out telling all the good he can do. He's been wanting to do it for 12 years. Why didn't he run against Alderman Berry and Alderman Gaines? I think he was a former alderman. When I run, I can tell you why, but I'd rather him tell you. So I hope everybody will listen to my prayer. It was a genuine. And Mayor, I have someone special in my life too. You met her. She died with diabetes. The good Lord didn't answer that prayer. But I'm willing to work for the people. All I ask is give me a chance. As Bill Clinton asked her when she had to go take a test she didn't think she had to take. She took the teacher's test and she saw how teachers couldn't even read a full constructed sentence. I have handicaps like Alderman Vestal. I have major eye problems. I've had polio. Now I have diabetes. But she gave Bill Clinton a chance. She didn't like his morals, but she gave him a chance and saw what he's trying to do. So all I'm saying to the citizens, and I don't expect the news media to pick up on this. They don't pick up on the good stuff. Give me a chance to prove what I could do for North Little Rock. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion?
So moved.
On the motion.
Gibson. Yielding. Robinson. Thomas. Barry. Vestal. Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
And we are.
Mayor
Let it be said, let it be done.
I got a phone call.